For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com, on apps, wherever. I full disclosure, I don't listen to podcasts, so I don't know how you do it. I'm still old school radio. There's a fax machine in my office at home, so enough said, right? There's my disclosure. Wow, I'm already embarrassing myself and we're not even 1 minute into the show. First off, I hope all of our Canadian listeners had a great Canada Day. Kind of weird to have it like smack dab in the middle of the week, right? Hump Day Wednesday, and and no fireworks and no big no, you know what? That's not true. That is not true. Maybe there was no official fireworks, official, I'm putting in quotation marks, where the city spends all your tax money and gets the fireworks and things like that. But there were some. I'm trying to think of what time it was. It was still light out, though. That's kind of what caught my ear. I would say that it was like 8 p.m. And it doesn't get dark until, 10 now? It was like 8 p.m., and all of a sudden I started hearing these fireworks. And then I kind of looked. I was like, it's still daylight outside, so I don't know how fun that is. I was tempted. I should have gone out and looked around and just, I probably wouldn't have seen them. The sun would have been reflecting off them. But the thought that counts, does that work for this kind of a thing? It's usually for gifts, but it's the thought that counts, everybody. It's the thought that counts. And happy 4th of July to our American friends who are tuning in. And I think I said this on the show last week. I feel that Americans are a little bit more patriotic than Canadians. And I mean that in regards to flag waving, and maybe not now with burning down your cities and things like that. It's a little bit of a different story. So both countries having a very unique holiday celebration for the summer, right? Both country birthdays, and you can't social distance, so you can go to a Chase Rice concert, I hear, and then on the airplanes they're throwing in the free coronavirus now, I understand, but otherwise when it comes to just the regular hootenanny. Remember, I have a fax machine, don't judge me, everybody. But anyway, okay, so actually what I'm talking about today on the show, because it's like dog season for me, because this is the time of year where you're out walking all the time, you put the sprinkler on in the yard, you have a little kiddie pool for them to go diving in, and that's I feel inspired by pets. And so I've got some stories for you today. One of them is about, how you always you watch, it's not uncommon for people to look at a dog and go, oh my God, he's so stupid, when they do things like, just odd things. But they are creatures of routine and habit. And I have this really funny story where when we go out walking, there's several different routes that we take. We don't always go in the same area, same directions. But when we do, my two dogs kind of have figured out, oh, hey, this is where such and such happens. Oh, hey, this is when we do this. So I'm going to tell you that story in a little bit. So I think the dogs are a little bit smarter than people give them credit for, right? And then also, I'm going to go back 9 years, because last week was the anniversary of me adopting my dog from the animal shelter, the Pound, I think it's called. And I mentioned that on the show last week, but I didn't have time to sort of go into this whole thing because, pet adoption, dog adoption specifically, is a big commitment. You hear that from everybody. You hear that from people at shelters. You hear that from people who own dogs. And I have some thoughts about people who adopt, and then also some people who surrender their dog for reasons for, let's say, oh, we had a baby and things just aren't working out. I don't know. I'm just one of those people who think about that life that the dog has. You've had the dog for however many years, months, whatever. And I realize that a kid is also a big, but, anyway, I'll get to it when we get into the segment. And then also to Oh, just wondering what pets are thinking. So it all kind of ties into the brain waves of animals and pets. So if you're an animal lover, you're a dog lover, you have fur babies, you're going to enjoy the show, and it starts right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Let's talk pets for a second. Everybody knows that I have my 2 dogs, right? And they're superstars in their own right, they are. And obviously, like most dogs, they like going for a W-A-L-K, right? We know what that means. I can't say the word because they're in the room with me. Actually, they're sort of sleeping, so I wonder if I just randomly said it. No, I think if I say it in a sentence, they wouldn't recognize it, right? Anyway, so my mom had called me the other day and said, you know what, do you want to take the dogs for a walk? And I said, yeah, fine, whatever, if it's going to be nice. And it's not uncommon for us to do that. She will come several times in the summer, maybe even once a week. Generally, if it's not raining, I'll go with the dogs. And so it was really funny because, again, they get into these habits or these patterns where when she first started coming to walk with us, she would have treats in her pocket. And so obviously the dogs kind of picked up on that, right? Because she gets out of the car, we'll already be walking down the street because for some reason, one of my dogs just starts howling. So if we come to the gate and he sees my mom parked in front, he'll just start howling. And it's kind of actually embarrassing because people are going to look out their window and go, what is happening to that dog? Oh my God, that poor dog. No, he's actually excited, believe it or not. And so we feel it's just best for all of our embarrassment if we sort of time it where, okay, she'll be here in 2 minutes, you know, we head out the door and then we start walking down the street and then she'll meet up with us, okay? And so very quickly they would smell the treats in her pocket when she would meet up with us. And of course at that point they just don't even want to walk. They want the treats. And then, and because we're talking as we're walking, we're not really paying attention, but I noticed the pattern was that they would always stop at the same street. Like when we would get to an intersection or we would get to, you know, a certain house on one of the blocks. It was almost like they recognized this, whatever it was, red house, blue house, whatever, as a spot to stop and give treat. And so that's what happened. The very first time was that they realized we're at this corner, whatever it is. So that's how smart my dogs are. So as much as people go and say, oh my God, my dog is so stupid. Well, no. And so sure enough, I started to recognize this pattern. And the one time she didn't bring as many treats as I guess she did in the past. And so they all of a sudden stop and both kind of look at her. They, you know, and she had nothing for them. And it was just almost devastating. So I felt like I had to come home and then give them a bunch of treats. So the other day we were walking and again, normally my dogs don't like stop and pee on everything. They don't take a crap. When we go for a walk, it's business. Like we're out the house. One is on one side, one is on the other. They both have their sides. If you try to put one on the left and one on the right, it doesn't, this one has to be on the left. They just won't walk, believe it or not. And, we're out walking and my mom was telling a story about how she was showing me pictures about like what my nephews were working on. They were doing something at home. And one of my dogs saw her bring out the camera and was kind of holding it out. Now, it looked like, from his perspective, his angle, his level, it looked like she was going to be taking a picture of him. Now, because my dogs are photographed like crazy, all the time for everything, it was just very funny that he sees her bring out the phone and all of a sudden he sits really nicely like she's going to take a picture of him. Isn't that funny? I think that's... My dogs are trained for show business. What can I say? But yeah, they've got their routines. They've got their patterns. They just, things have to be just so for them for the most part. So I'd love to hear your pet stories. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. I'm already getting choked up just at this thought. I am a huge animal lover. I have 2 dogs, 2 rabbits. I've always, we got a dog when I was, I think, 2 when I was living at home, and one of the first things that I did when I bought my house, like 12 years ago, was I said I need a big yard because I'm going to get a big dog. And sure enough, I got a golden retriever, and then I have a rescue dog from the animal shelter, the city's, the pound, I guess you call it. And I've always been a big defender of pets, especially dogs. And okay, I have always said that this, and people will say this all the time, this is somebody that's going to be a member of your family. This isn't just like, oh, I'm going to the store and I'm going to try this thing, and if it's, if it doesn't work, then I'll just take it back and get another one, and oh, I'm going to get the cutest one, or I'm going to get the whatever. So that's where I lose respect for people who get a dog, whether that's, as a gift, and then just go and say, well, it just didn't work with our schedule, because they haven't thought it through. Right? And I know there's instances where, let's say, an older person has a dog and they're going to a home and they can't take it and the animal needs to be surrendered. I get that. I get it. I get that there's changes in your life. But to me, it always just seems so inconsiderate, because I don't know how animals think, right? I don't know what the dog is thinking. But to read a story of somebody who had said, oh, it's just, the dog is just taking up, too much time, we can't. Here's the deal. This was during the coronavirus shutdown. You have all the time in the world. And secondly, you have multiple kids. And the dog is older than some of these kids. So to me, that means that the dog was a priority, and then, we just had a change of heart, and, we're shifting the focus. We're going in a different direction, as though you're being laid off from a job. To me, that's where I lose respect for you. And I know that when I went to the pound to get my dog, that morning was like the greatest feeling, because I had gone there the night before. I had met him. The vet told me that because my dog was a certain age and a certain energy level, that he should be paired with a dog that's a puppy and energetic and what have you. So when I saw the video of him, the second dog, on the city's website, I saw that he plays exactly the same, he runs exactly the same, that they would be a good match. So I went there first the night before, met him. He was a little, hooligan, stealing treats and just going for the attention. I was like, well, this is perfect. So when I go there the next morning to actually finally adopt him, I had gone there too late in the day. And I appreciate that they want you to spend some time before just going, okay, I'll take that one. So you wake up in the morning, you're excited, you're doing a good thing, right? Because you're rescuing a dog. And I got to tell you, it was actually the most saddening moment when I was there that morning, because I had gone to the store with my friend. He's like, hey, can I come with you? I said, yeah, sure. We'd gone to the store. We got a bunch of stuff. He got a bunch of things for the new dog. And go there, and instantly somebody is bringing in a dog that they've captured on their property. They have this big cage, and the dog puts on his brakes, or her brake. I don't know if it was a male or female, but anyway. And I guess can hear the other dogs barking in the back, or smells something, whatever, and actually has to be pulled by the collar across from the main doorway to the receiving area, whatever you call it, the desk, the counter, and then into the back. This dog, I think, was just terrified, because it's either lost, it's hearing all these other dogs, not knowing what's going on. I hear them, I don't see them, and now you're taking me back to where all that noise is coming from. So then, and again, it was very impersonal when you go there. I said, oh, well, I'm here to see, such and such. They look in a book. He's in kennel number whatever. So you go through the door, and then there's all these chain link cages, in a sense, is what they are. And as soon as they hear the door open, all of them, get up, they start barking, they're excited because, hey, somebody's here to see us. Somebody is here to pay attention to us. Is somebody going to take me home? Now, again, I don't know that these dogs think, hey, there could be a couch and carpet and a bed I can sleep on and not this concrete jail cell. I don't know what an animal is thinking. I just feel that because I know that there's better things out there for you, that you already assume as a dog that there are. And so you go, thankfully my dog was like right near the doorway, but it was so sad because there was a dog across the way. They've been staring at each other and barking at each other for who knows how long, but an older dog. He barely lifted his head up and then just kind of looked away. And that just gutted me because it made me think, wow, he's been here so long and realizes that everybody's coming for the young, cute puppies and just, leaving the old guys there with nothing. And again, like I said, I had done my research. This wasn't an impulse buy, right? I said to the vet, I've got this hyper golden retriever, what's a good match? And so as much as you want to pay attention to this guy that you're about to bring home and give a new life to, you can't help but feel like just distraught that you can't do this for all of them. Right? And that they're just being judged because they're not cute or they're old or whatever it is. So fast forward then to the first day when I had him at the house. It just wasn't working for my golden retriever, who was getting all of my attention at the time, right? Now, wait a second, there's this other four-legged guy in the house. What's going on? And they just weren't hitting it off. And the puppy that I got was energetic and like trying to wrestle with my dog, which my dog had never done that before. And then my dog was coming to, well, I guess they were both my dog at that point. The older dog, the golden retriever, just sort of kept looking at me going, what's going on? Get this thing off me. What's happening? And I felt terrible and it wasn't working. And the next morning, I didn't sleep. The dog was just barking and howling. He wouldn't go to bed. And I hadn't slept really. I hadn't eaten properly. And I was sitting outside in the backyard the next morning and I was crying. And my friend had texted me and he's like, so how did it go? And I said, I don't think this is working. And so he said, well, you know what, I'll come by, and I said, okay. And in that moment, I thought, you know what, I've already given you a taste of home for a day. Yes, they say that if it doesn't work out within 7 days, you can bring the dog back, whatever. I don't view it like that. And so I thought, I can't give up on this dog. Here we are. We've just started a relationship. He's thinking I've got a new friend, right? This golden retriever friend. I'm not sleeping on concrete tonight. I had a bed. I had a pillow. I had toys. I had all this stuff. I would have felt like a horrible person if I went and just took him back there and said, we didn't even give it a try, but my dog didn't like you, so see ya. And again, I don't know that animals have emotions like that or feelings like that, but I just assume that they do because I treat them like people. And in that moment, I said, no, I'll never be able to live with myself if I don't give this an opportunity. Sure enough, now I've had that dog for 9 years. The golden retriever is 12, and they're best buds, right? They're brothers. They never go anywhere without each other. And so when I see people who, take all of these cute pictures of their new puppy and post them on Facebook and Instagram, and it's, it's like a novelty. It's no different than people who get the little, almost who have a baby to do the same thing, right? Almost as a social, a showpiece. And, it bothered me because just before the show, I don't spend much time scrolling on Facebook, but for some reason I did today. I spent about 10 minutes. And I see the person post that they gave up their dog. Again, the dog has been around since before their kids. And posted a picture. This is what gets me. Posts a picture of the car ride to the kennel or the pound, wherever the shelter that they took it to. A picture from the back seat, and then a picture of the dog behind bars. And I know that they got the dog when it was a puppy, so I know that this wasn't like, this was the first day we met you. No, this was today. You basically took a picture of yourself taking your dog there, and then you leaving your dog. Now, in fairness, I don't know the full story as to why this dog is suddenly being surrendered. So I can't, fully judge. What I can judge, though, is the actions. Yes, you can be devastated that you're giving up your dog after all these years. Yeah. Think about what the dog is possibly wondering right now. if you have had that deep connection, and again, the post said something like, you've always waited for me to come home and blah, 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 blah. So think about it this way. You're saying goodbye, and you're taking a picture, and you're leaving that dog there. He is very likely thinking that you are coming back for him. So of all of those years of companionship and loyalty that both of you have had for each other, it's suddenly now, he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't get it. So again, I realize again, it could be maybe he's vicious now and bit one of the kids, but at the same time, did the kid do something wrong? Again, I don't know. I'm just putting out different scenarios that are likely possible, right? And I would say I wouldn't give up. I don't have kids. I don't really care for kids. But if it was my kid that provoked the dog and that's why they got bitten, well, that's a teaching lesson for the kid. That's not a reason to reprimand the dog. If the kid knows that the dog doesn't like his tail or his ear being pulled and the kid is doing it anyway just to pester the dog, absolutely you take your bite. But you know what? You punish the kid, you don't punish the dog. So I just, and there was another scenario where there was a former friend, and I haven't talked to her since, who sort of was like me, that didn't like kids at all, and then suddenly is pregnant, and then they get a dog during the pregnancy, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And then suddenly the baby comes around and the dog just isn't working for that life setup anymore. So, oh, well, we've tried, we've got to give up the dog. You make that work. I'm sorry. It is. You wouldn't say, you know what, this baby is just too screamy, too cryy, too miserable. I'm just going to take it to an orphanage. Maybe there are people who do that. I don't know. But yeah, so it gutted me to see. And there was a part of me that wanted to reach out to this person on Facebook and just say, like, get all the details as to why. But then I just feel like I'm going to launch into a lecture, and that's not going to do anybody any good. But then there's a part of me that wants to go and say, like, maybe I can foster the dog then until they find somebody, because to me that's a total 180 when you go from having a home and bed and carpet and pillows and toys and treats and everything like that to then a concrete chain link cell. I just feel like that would be an emotional stress on a dog who doesn't know that. That'd be like me after 12 years of a golden retriever who's, I don't want to say pampered, but certainly has a very privileged lifestyle in my house, to just go and suddenly say, yeah, so you're going to go have a chain link concrete house now. And not even a house. Something that's even smaller than the area that you currently sleep in on a daily basis. Much smaller than the living room. Much smaller than even the bathroom floor that you lay on when I'm having a bath. So I couldn't. It would just drive me insane. And so I'm surprised that I've kept it together during this segment, because at the beginning, like I said, I was sort of feeling choked up when I see the dog's face. Because he's behind the chain link. Maybe he's thinking, are we playing a game now? Like, oh, this is fun. I'm on one side, you're on the other. And then he sees you walking away, and now he's going to be sitting there for how many hours waiting to see if you're coming back? Again, I don't know both sides of the story, so I can't say for sure that they're making a good decision or bad decision, but I just feel like there are options. And I'm assuming, and I would hope that they've actually sort of scoped it out and seen, maybe they have a friend that could take them. Maybe there's other alternatives. But yeah, I don't know. So I that's just sort of my warning. If you feel like a dog is just disposable, that he's just not working for me, and oh well, we had a kid now, so we can't do it. You know what? You think about that. I knew 12 years ago when I got a dog that I wasn't going to be having children. I knew that I would be traveling quite a bit for work, so I found alternatives that I didn't have to. When the time came that I would have to leave the city, my dog is not going to a kennel. I've got somebody that's going to be able to take him, and I made those arrangements. And, so it's disappointing to see things like that where, you have a loyal member of your family who you just, suddenly up and decide. And, the person that I'm talking about is known to just keep popping out kids. So I'm hoping that's not the actual reason. Anyway, let's move on. I'll be right back on the Scribble.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to talk to the pet owners for a second here. And dogs and cats tend to do some very odd, weird things. And sometimes you want to know why they do it, and other times you want to just sort of either make up a reason or just keep the mystery alive, right? And so, you'll talk to your veterinarian and they'll say, oh, well, they do this because of that, right? Oh, your dog licks your arm because of this. Your dog licks your feet because of this. Or they chase their tail because of this. Sometimes I just, I've got 2 dogs and 2 rabbits. And sometimes I just sort of say, like, why are you going around and licking the walls? I mean, nothing has, there's no flavor to them. Nothing has changed. We didn't just repaint. But you're licking the walls for whatever reason. Now, again, I would assume that there's some kind of taste, right? There's some flavor to it. But one of my dogs, when he was a little bit older, would get so excited that he would go and he would be humping the bed. So he would have, let's say he has stuffed animals. He has his toy in his mouth. And he'd have his front paws on the bed and he's just like, giving it to the bed. And you're kind of like, stop that first off, right? Because he does it, if company comes over, something like that. And so it's something that he's I don't remember exactly when it started, but I mean, he's 12 years old now and he still does it when he gets really excited. And so again, I'm just kind of like, why are you doing that? What? I don't get it. And so you just sort of go, okay, doesn't really make sense. So I want to know what your pets do. If there's any kind of weird habits or activities, send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. And then I had another instance too where the dog, this is almost where he's like a cat, where he will be scratching at the carpet. He'll be laying out of nowhere, get up, and I can hear him, scratching in the other room or whatever it is. It's not like it's a blanket, right? If you're scratching at a blanket, I can understand that you're making a bed or a nest or whatever you want to call it, right? You're making it comfy, you're kind of... But it's like you're scratching at the carpet for absolutely nothing, and then you're laying on top of it. The carpet has not moved. I mean, it might slightly, right? Just because based on, what you've done. But, no, it hasn't flattened it. It hasn't fluffed it up. It hasn't done anything. You've just been scratching at the carpet for whatever reason, and then you go and lay right on it. And again, maybe these are just my dogs. Maybe yours do it too. Like I said, there's a part of me that wants to know the answer, but at the same time, I kind of just sort of like making up in my head, right? Like I just want to, okay, that's why he's doing it. No different than when a cat sees a light, right? And then you, with those laser pens, and you zigzag it around, and, why is the cat doing it? Well, because they see it and they're trying to chase it, right? They're trying to catch it. Why does my dog go around licking the couch, licking the the wall, it's just very strange. And there's something also so cute about it because you kind of give them this quizzical, I don't know if I've ever said that word ever on the radio or podcast before. They have just this puzzled look of I don't get what do you get? I don't get what you get out of that. What is so, I don't know. But yeah, there are some things that I have figured out, I'm not the dog whisperer. Hey, I should ask Cesar Milan. He's been on the show with us a couple times before. But anyway, so tell me your pet stories, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter @The Scribble Show and @thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Just to clarify, despite what it sounds like, I am not one of those people who goes on and on and on about my dogs all the time. Quite honestly, I actually don't like talking about them. And I worked with somebody years and years and years ago that was really the only point of conversation that he could make with somebody was about dogs. And he was doing like a foster thing for this animal shelter. So all we'd ever hear about was dogs, dogs, dogs. And again, I love dogs, but you can't be just a one-trick pony. Not a pony. You can't be a one-trick... Anyway, that's it for the show this week. Again, happy holidays, happy Canada Day, happy 4th of July. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Live at jbonair.com is the email address, and I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.